Sorry for the delay. 'Tis the season for me to have sinus issues and voice issues, so I was conserving my voice for a while after work so that I could do this live stream with y'all. If nobody shows up now, that's okay, but I will ramble for a moment or two about why I'm covering these topics and how we got here a little bit real quick. So let me turn the comments on, hopefully. Oh, darn it. I don't know why it starts doing that sometimes, but I won't touch those again. So, where to start with this? There's a lot going on. Let me just say that, first of all, the opinions reflected in this video do not necessarily reflect those of Google or YouTube. I'm not affiliated with any sponsorship from any entity, period. No part of this is medical nor legal advice. Please seek proper counsel for such advice. But as saying, Matt, all information shared here is part of the Fair Use Act of 1976, including everything that is publicly available online via Google itself. So there, that's covered. Thank goodness. So how did we get here? There's a lot going on according to the media. And I want to stress the point that just because I cover something does not mean I agree with it or disagree with it. It is just a thing that seems to be in the public consciousness or is becoming more aware by the public conscious or collective conscious, if you will. That's that thing that holds us together in a shared reality as far as society goes. The agendas you're seeing playing out now, I don't know if they are quote-unquote end times scenarios or not. I'm not in Canada. I'm not in California. I'm not in places where most of these things are happening. Because of that, I'm not personally going to say that I even know that or believe that these events are occurring at this time. Because I've noticed a lot in the background of YouTube. YouTube will tell you a lot if you watch people who have a van life or who travel, where they're going, where they're not going. When their video is filmed, is it really as new as they're saying that it is? Just watching things like that and people outside and out of doors has told me a lot as far as media deception and what is actually going on in what places. So we should all be observant and just aware these are definitely strange times. We are definitely seeing a collective turn in society and the direction things were going. So I do believe it's a new age for mankind in that way. We know that sometimes when things are destroyed, new things are born. And that can be both tragic and sad and beautiful and hopeful, okay? So just because we talk about something doesn't mean we necessarily agree with a theory 100%. We're just recognizing the fact that pretty much everything is on the table at this point, unless it can be proven otherwise. Because, again, we are definitely living in different times than I was aware or was born into and made aware of. I've gotten into ghost hunting and why I think they have quote unquote told us things without coming out and telling us things. I believe that is the angels and demons working behind the scenes. Now, when I say angels and demons, I don't necessarily believe or ascribe to the belief 100% that these are entities who have personalities and beings like our own. I'm not sure how I feel about that right now, but I do know they operate through frequency, and that's playing a big part in a lot that's happening right now. That's why I don't believe all of it is technological, and I don't believe that it's all spiritual. It would appear to be both. And we have to come to the understanding that for us on this side of things, spirit doesn't mean that it cannot interact with the physical material world. It just means that us as humans with our human eyes cannot see such beings. So I like to differentiate and, just kind of give an intro as to the language that'll be used and theories that will be brought up. So let's get started. Now, again, I apologize for changing the time. I'm getting used to working again. Now, people will say, well, excuse me, now real TIs, they're not hired, they don't work. Well, I have stress to the point of exhaustion that my situation is entirely different than anyone else's that I've ever encountered. It would seem I've been monitored my whole life, but not just by, God's angels and demons, but by man. For what purpose or why, I don't know. But looking back, so many things never made sense to me. And I was made to feel like it was my fault, like there was something wrong with me, or I was looking too far into things and I was too sensitive. But really, I was picking up on deceptions that were happening around me and that were being carried out to manipulate me to behave in a certain way, to mislead me. And because of that, because I recognize what's happening, I think that does make people like me and myself somewhat of a threat, but also an anomaly. I don't think the system really knows what to do with us. And I think that we definitely have helpers here. So not everything that happens to us is for a bad reason or a bad cause, okay? So, are we in the end times? I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no about that. I don't know. But I know that since 2017 and 18, many of us with smaller channels, you just got to know what to search for, have been talking about this relentlessly since 2018. I myself destroyed my first channel and the content on it, the Brie and Jen channel. If you look up to the right, that's the picture on that channel. And I had that name and that channel since I came back to God and became born again and whatnot. And the stalking and the harassment got so bad. And because I truly believe that we were turning a corner as a group and that it was time to close the chapter on some things. But I still go over these things because now we're looking into them with more depth. And I hope a more understanding. So there's a lot of wildfires allegedly happening. Again, I'm not going to say if these things are definitely occurring now or not. I know that for the last 5 years or so, it has been a steady loop of the same things. You see the protesters in France, they called them the yellow vests, and that's been going on for years. Like, there comes a point when your society would be torn apart. If these things are really happening and they're organic. So either the news is just on a loop and we're not actually seeing what's happening over there. And that's possibly what they're using those empty cities for. I've spoken about that at length. A lot of these things we've talked about on the original channel. So please understand, this is also very personal for me. It's very, very weird to see things that I had happen to me in dreams and things that were revealed to me at a personal level are now becoming public events and coming into the public awareness. A lot of us had things happen to us because we came out against certain agendas and because we talked against certain things that were occurring in certain groups, subgroups. Again, I don't make blanket statements, but a lot of us have known certain things were coming, not just from dreams and spiritual events, but also just from having the foresight to say, okay, this is going to be a problem in a few years. And lo and behold, things are coming back to roost. Things that have been sown are now being reaped. And it rains on the just and the unjust. Good and bad things happen to good people all the time. So let's dissect this from a spiritual level. And I'm going to cover a lot of things, hopefully in a short amount of time. I'm going to try and keep this about an hour. So let's get started. Nobody's here, and that's okay. I realize this is a weird time, and weird day to do a evening live stream, but this is what my schedule allotted for, and with my voice starting to get its winter raspiness and unreliability, I wanted to cover these things before they get carried away any further. So when I saw the wildfires happening, it occurred to me that there were certain things mentioned about the end times. God made a promise to us with a rainbow, saying that he would never flood the earth again. But it is said that fire shall come again. And that, that certain trees and certain things like olive oil would not be touched at the beginning of the end times while God's children were being sealed. But after that time, after everybody was sealed, you would see pretty much a free-for-all against the trees and the grass and nature around us, our environment, our very environment. Which is one reason a lot of us have been talking about fasting. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice in any way, shape, or form. This is my personal testimony about that. It is a very spiritual thing, but it also creates a sense of discipline in a person. And if you can deny yourself that one thing for a few days, you will receive many blessings for it, because it requires a great amount of restraint and personal accountability and discipline to accomplish fasts and short-term goals like that with your body. It is good for your spirit. We've known for a while now that your body and your spirit are intrinsically linked. I have an open mind about most things, but there are certain things that I will not bend on. And for me personally, I do not consent to reincarnation. That is really big right now. It's blown up. I was talking about this a long time ago. I believe it has everything to do with consent and also eternity. I don't know that if you agree to something like that, if that happens to you, I don't know if after that you can still ascend in the way that we are meant to. And so I think that reincarnation is the counterfeit of resurrection and transfiguration, which is now at this moment being proven by science through things like quantum mechanics. And it's just really, truly an interesting, amazing time to be alive. We hear about a lot of bad things, but again, be vigilant. We don't know that all of these things are actually occurring. We're seeing them using movie script in real life. And again, I think those are signs and wonders. I think because the Bible is coming to life, the counterfeit of that is movie scripts coming to life. And for the younger generation and on Reddit and the simulation theory, excuse me, a lot of people are being pulled into the counterfeit kingdom. And for me personally, I'm not going to consent to reincarnation. They're trying, and they have been trying for a while now, to get people to outright consent to these things in a passive manner. And this is why I talk about that ad nauseum, to the point where I'm literally almost blue in the face. Whoops. Okay, so the first thing is Uriel. If these fires are actually occurring, what could be another reason for them? Now, a lot of people are saying do weapons, and people criticize me for this too, and I'm just going to say, I'm not disagreeing that these technologies are out there. I'm saying they are fallen angel technologies. Anything that can manipulate weather, anything that can manipulate or seemingly manipulate the fabric of reality, originally came from God for creationary purposes, right? And for healing purposes. And the angels are like his soldiers and his warriors. And we're going to get into the hierarchy. People will sometimes make angels look, sound, and appear very, very wimpy. And this is not the case at all, in my opinion. And we should show some respect and reverence for all life, but especially life that came before us and was venerated by the Holy of Holies, the creator, the maker, the grand architect, him herself. Okay. All right, nobody's here. Well, I'll just keep going. So I'm not saying that dues and those things are not out there or they don't exist. I'm saying that it doesn't have to be just technological. It can be quote unquote spiritual too. So remember, keep in the back of your mind, spiritual doesn't mean that it cannot have impact on the physical or that we cannot interact with it or that it does not have a life. Okay. Spirit is life. Okay. And spirit is in us, right? We just cannot see it. Okay. And we cannot see those who are on the other side of the veil. I believe that angels operate through rays of light and sound frequencies. All right. So this will get a little esoteric. And again, I can't please everybody or anybody. Some of us just can't because we are seeking truth and quantifiable truth that can be observed and repeated and is unchangeable and that stands on its own. That is not found necessarily in religion or in science or in any man. It needs no defender. Though we are its defenders, it stands alone, okay? Although it does hide and it is hidden, so you have to seek it out. Now, so you have a hierarchy, right? Just like in war, you have your military, okay? Think if you can't relate it to spirit, think of a military. There's generals, there's sergeants, there's soldiers, and there's grunts. You know, you've got everybody involved here. The archangels are allegedly on a lower end of the spectrum as far as angels go. I believe seraphim are above the archangels, and Satan allegedly, or Lucifer, Satanael, is a seraphim, from my current understanding. If that's wrong, or if you disagree with that, let's talk about it. Right? So let's all have open minds here, because that's key going into videos like this. So we know that he's an archangel. The Catholic Church recognizes Michael as an archangel, okay? They do not any longer recognize Uriel. I'm not sure why. Orthodox Christianity, Orthodox Catholics, Russian Orthodox Catholics do recognize Uriel. And I would really like to get into that and try to understand why that happened. But I haven't thus far been able to find information on that. So I'm just going to cover the basics here because I want to get into what this has to do with possible raptures and an NPC or demonic or whatever you want to call them, hive mind activity occurring around us, and what that also might have to do with the Malaysian flight. So we're getting into a lot here, but remember, God and his angels, they operate outside of time. I can kind of relate because I've not had to answer to a clock for many years, and now I have to a little bit again. And I'm doing it by choice, so it's okay for very specific reasons that I won't get into here. I might not get into at all. We'll see how much time is, allotted for certain things. But they operate outside of time. So when we think of the raptures and we think of Judgment Day and we think of books being laid out, most books being laid out in a chronological order, we have to kind of throw all that aside because it is as above, so below. If you bind something in heaven, it shall be bound on earth. If you loose it in heaven, it shall be loosed in earth, right? It is still under the same creationary authority, okay? It's still in the same realm of beings. Different angels have different powers, and they operate in different principalities, okay? And their principality and their power, that's two different things. Now, Uriel, it is said, he has discs of fire. Why is this key? Because in the end times, allegedly the earth shall be covered in fire. Now, there are certain mud flooders and Tartarian people who are on YouTube. They've gotten very big. I kind of helped with that. Some of us have helped with that. But not everything they say is untruth. However, after watching some of them in their videos and little things I've noticed that they do that I don't know if anyone else even notices or if it's even intentional on their part. Once you understand symbolism a little bit and patterns, you can start to pick up on certain things in people's behaviors around your individuals' behaviors around you. And some of them just don't pass muster for what we have come to understand as human. Okay? I know they're going to use some alien thing to, whatever. We've all talked about that at length. That all ties into all of this. So Uriel, his power are these discs of fire. That is one of his principalities, his powers. So Uriel, Ariel, or Oriel. Now, because there are different languages and different cultures, that means every being has wound up being slapped with several names, okay? That's kind of key because God has many names as well. Are we talking about one God, the same God, or many gods? Again, I think that can get complicated. When you pray to the one, make your maker, right? The maker who created you, the God of your understanding. And that helps put things in a proper order. And then you can begin to see these patterns just occur around you. And it's actually awesome. There is no waste in God's kingdom. None. Everything ends up being used for something. And that's another lie that we've been told. I don't think we would ever be overpopulated, though I do believe resources can dry up when and if certain events take place. And I believe that, too, is with a purpose. We've talked about that a little bit when we've talked about diet and how you can see there are things that are agendas, absolutely, but there are also things that are meant to happen, right? They're supposed to happen. They are part of the overall plan, the overarching plan. For example, man in the media right now, or the ones behind certain men in the media right now, they are using fear. We know this, but they're also using reverse psychology. I've talked about this a lot in regards to the law of reversal and certain things that have been occurring again as well, and why some of us are seeing these things play out in reverse. And I think, I don't want to get, again, I look at these things in an entirely new way now, but I believe that's for a reason. And I'll just say it is said that when you pass, or when you're about to pass, you start to see things in reverse. And my whole quote unquote life here has been kind of like that, with cause and effect being a little skewed. So it really makes me wonder about the state of things and beings here now. And so, is it the end times? Yes and no. It's the end of a certain time and age, but it is the beginning of a new age. And that could be exciting. And of course, it could be a little scary too. So you have Uriel. He is an archangel. He's mentioned in the Apocrypha books, and he is well known in the Russian Orthodox tradition and in folk Catholicism. He's recognized in the Anglican Church as the fourth archangel. Now, again, the Catholic Church, it's like he was in canon, but then he was decanonized. He was downgraded from being a saint. And I saw that, and I have not been able to find out the reason for that. So I've been kind of searching on a search. Now, the mudflatters who talk about Tartaria, Tartarus is mentioned in the Bible. It is Hades. Actually, it is where the fallen angels are imprisoned. Again, Hades was not created for mankind. We're not really supposed to go there. I don't know that the true mankind will go there for that reason. I do believe there are different options, again, through consent, through the counterfeit kingdom, through certain things that happen. But there's a good and a bad, pro and a con with all of these things. And the point of bringing all this out is to say that we do have a choice. We have a choice about things in life, and the media will tell you you don't. Mankind will tell you you don't. Certain experts will tell you you have no choice. And if you do know that you have a choice, then they will try to manipulate you to do the quote unquote right thing for everybody, or the best thing for the collective, when that's not always the best thing. Okay? So the point of all of this is to not allow our free will to be manipulated around us, or superseded, or taken away from us. It is to bring these things to light, and so that we can make educated decisions moving forward. I believe we have been taught doctrines of demons in school, in science, in religion, in every one of those houses, because they are different tentacles of the same kraken, the same beast. Okay, so we'll keep going. It's a little sad. Nobody's here with me, but that's okay. That means I can just move right along. So we know he's an archangel. Sometimes ranked as an archangel. Sometimes. His abilities. Now, you get into some subculture here, but it's a good idea not to just dismiss subculture, because again, the subculture is created by these beings and those who worship them. Things don't trend by accident. They trend because they want you to see them. They want you to be manipulated by certain topics that are out there, and you have to remember that the screens are just ways to manipulate you. Billboards, marketing, advertising, all that stuff. The news is its own sense of marketing, right? It is its own way of marketing the public and advertising, and the best form of advertising is repetition, and that's why they go over certain things so many times, is to, like, people don't like this word, but it is to, in effect, basically brainwash a person so that they behave in a certain way, and that way usually benefits the ones, who are perpetrating these acts and crimes against free will and humanity. Again, I apologize. I feel bronchitis coming on, so it is very possible that if we look at this from a spiritual angle, from a folklore angle, from a biblical scripture angle, from even the angelic angle, it is very possible that the reason for these fires is the same technology that Uriel, the quote-unquote angel, carries with him. Okay, it is very possible because of things like dews. Again, when we spoke on Ryan Peterson's book and we were first dipping our toes into the topic of the fallen angels, we realized that indeed it appeared as though at a point the LDS church was hijacked. Groups or spiritual people like John Dee, who appeared to be very Christian-like and very on his way to holiness or sainthood, was sidetracked by communicating with the fallen ones, and their signature oftentimes is partner swapping, wife swapping. It is to get man to commit that adultery, to divide the man and the woman. Enmity shall be, in between the woman and these beasts, pretty much, and that's what they try to do. It worked in the beginning with Eve. Their game plan has not changed. They are merciless when it comes to the degradation of the female. I am not complaining or whining about this fact. It is simply a fact at this point. Those who cannot see that do have closed minds. They are archaic. They are trapped in the part of the system that is better left behind. There's a lot to be said for tradition. I'm all for tradition, but I'm not for anybody, black, white, male, female, brown, caramel, red, tan, whatever, purple, man, woman, child. I'm not for anybody being subjugated, oppressed, or repressed. So when we think that man pretty much was given these technologies and knowledge was traded for women, when the falling came down, they took the wives of their choosing, and some of them were already godly people. Who do you think they would go after but the people who showed promise or who were godly people? David, Solomon, they both had their crosses to bear when it came to multiple women and idolatry. Okay, so, and again, that is Old Testament. I think of idolatry in a different way today than I think that it was looked at back then. But I also believe mankind is supposed to be spiritually evolving, and that we should look at certain things from a different perspective at this point. And when you have more information, more true information about a topic, and you can make educated decisions, you should be able to change your mind about things. So that's what I mean when I say have an open mind. I don't mean just to let anything in there. I mean to be open to new information and dissecting it and examining it. Don't be afraid that somebody might change your mind, right? It doesn't mean that's a bad thing. So it's very possible that because mankind traded certain knowledge and certain technology that he was given, that the fallen ones were given the women to quote unquote marry. Now remember, the original definition of marry was to couple, right? That is to actually couple, to come together in the flesh, in that carnal way, right? To make love, right? So they came down here because women were so fair, and to procreate with them. They wanted their own families. Now, why did they want their own families? I do have compassion for all beings under God's domain. I just do. I love and have compassion for all of them. Most of them. You know, there are a few that I find it very hard to not openly disparage and speak against, but I have to remember we all started in God's kingdom. So that's no way to be, right? We're not going to get anywhere without love and forgiveness. And that is the one law at this point, is to do all things from love. Even eating the food, quote unquote food, because food is not food products. I'm talking food, what we are meant to eat. Food even has a lot to do with that as well. So, Uriel, let's take a look at imagery, because imagery is important as well. Artists back in the day, because not everyone was able to read, you have these renderings in the church that told the stories of certain events, certain beings, certain angels, you know, certain biblical events, and certain people from the past, to tell the story to people who were illiterate, okay? This is why these things, and a lot of people will scream idolatry, you know, that is very base level thinking and mentality. That is the lowest frequency, pretty much, in my opinion. If we cannot rise above that, we're going to stay where we're at. And I personally don't want to be a part of like some primordial sludge, black goo, hive mind thing. So I try not to dwell there at all anymore. And I try not to allow myself to be taken there as little as possible. Am I perfect? No, absolutely not. But again, these are just tips for you as well to take as you will. Now, Uriel carries a sword of fire, okay? And in some phrases or some texts, it is referred to as a disc or discs of fire. And so if you see him here, you can see he is holding fire in his hand. I love these old iconography, I believe is how they're referred to. And you see he has the flame there, right? And then here, there's a flame, a bright flame. Now, if you look at what his name means in all of the angels, you see it ends in the EL, the typical L, meaning of God, angelic, right? Some of us say, you know, EL, Elohim, angelic, holy, made of God. And then sometimes that means godly, okay? So we're not going to look at everything here. Just a few things, okay? Okay, he's known as a variety of things. Some people call him a seraphim, some call him an archangel, so it varies. Here it says, can we do that? Okay, good. This is always a little easier in everybody's eyes. Okay, so his name means God is my flame. Okay, there you see the Coptic and the Greek and the Italian, all the different ways of saying his name. And now this is why in English, you'll see any one of these being used. It is referring to the same being, but because English is like almost like a dumpster fire of languages, this is what you get. And because we are where we are in history or in time, so to speak. So we get into a lot here, which I don't want to get into right now because I want to touch base what this has to do with end times. It's very possible, if we are in end times, this being his domain and his his power, okay? Now, in the secret book of John, an early Gnostic work, Uriel is placed in control over the demons who help Yadabaoth create Adam, okay? Gnostics have a different belief. They believe that all flesh is evil. Well, not all Gnostics. Again, religion has been perverted, every single one of them, okay? This is why we got to kind of just pick at the meat and get, throw the bones out, throw the rest out. And this is why I believe there's truth in there's truth everywhere, right? If there is a good, there is a bad. If there's an up, there's a down. If there's a lie, there is a truth to be found to that lie. The angels mentioned in the canonical books of the Hebrew Bible of the Tanakh are generally without names. I personally believe that might be a good idea in most cases, other than if you have prophets or people having the same revelations, right? And these beings give the same name over and over. They're giving you that for a reason. Number one, if the creator himself, if God, who created all things and said they were good, if that, the main creator at the tippy top, let's see, God called everything good, right? Now, if you are given a name, and it's a true name, and you have more than one person or prophet receiving the revelation of that same name, chances are, number one, that's the being's real name. Number two, that being is sent by God. Demons will not give you their names. Fallen angels do not give you their names. They use a variety of names in the human realm here. And because yes, they hijack human bodies. I believe that's how it happens. That's how babies are made. And I believe that's what's going on here. And so they're hijacking bodies. And I don't know that the women know this is what's occurring. Because I do believe they can take on the image or the same body maybe as the women's husbands. Remember, they took wives of their choosing. It's very possible they took women who were already betrothed or married. For whatever reason, again, they want to get mankind to go against God, to go against all things godly. That would be marriage. That would be family. That would be order, right? Anything that goes against the godly ways, these fallen ones will try to instigate you or a group of people to perpetrate. The whole goal is to get us to act against God. Remember, the whole story of Job tells us that. The entire time, Satan was trying to get Job just to curse God. Even his own wife wanted him to do that. And he wouldn't do it the whole time. That story is told to us. That specific story is told to us for a reason. I'm sure there's a lot of stories in the history of mankind that could be told, right? But that story was chosen for a reason, because there's a moralistic value to it. It has a lesson in it. And most people, whether they're religious or not, are able to see that and learn from that, right? And that's the reason for stories and parables and fairy tales and all these things. However, there is truth in some of these. So again, wherever you see sin being instigated, beings that are committing like peer pressure, trying to pressure others into doing these acts, those are demons carrying out God's commands, because the goal is to discipline us, and it is to hone us, and it is to get us to develop a character and a personality and a free will all of our own. That is the goal. We're supposed to have free will. So a lot happening here is happening because it's meant to. It will be better for us in the long run, spiritually and for humanity as a whole, I believe, and individually. But growth is a painful process. I believe that I lay down a good case for us having angelic technology and using it against man, but not just us, right? If we have that technology and it came from the fallen, that means it came from the angelic realm to begin with. That means it is of God. It came of God. Technology does not necessarily mean something man-made or electronic. We need to reframe our perspective of what technology entails. Because of the age we live in, we think technology means anything that's electronic or a device or computerized. While those things are true, we are living in the digital computerized age. There was an industrial age as well. And both of these ages, those are different technologies, right? So it's very possible that we are seeing angelic technology being used, okay? Uriel is also often identified as a cherub because he is said to be the one who stands at the gate of Eden with a fiery sword. But also at the end times, he's also the angel who checked the doors of Egypt for the lamb's blood during the plague. That right there, that proves, and a lot of people have asked me about this, and I was not sure about this, but that proves right there that the blood of Christ and declaring the blood of Christ is a protective measure. Because God gave us that name. We know that name. We were given that name in a variety of different languages because it's the name above all names. When we use that name, all things have to bow to it, right? All things below that name, as long as God's okay with it. If it's something, that's why there's still the creator, and this is why I don't know that we know God's name, because then you'd have power over God, and that cannot happen. That's not allowed to happen. So anyways, but good angels, they will give you their name. That's a sign that they are forthcoming. The demons don't want you to have their name because you'll use it against them. They already don't want to be working for God, but in a roundabout sort of way, they still are, even though they're now demonic and in Tartaria or Tartarus, even though they're stuck in a prison, spiritually speaking, although I don't believe that's the case any longer for all of them. Now, Uriel, I think, is also given the key to the pit. So let's look. Oh, there it is. Yeah. He checked the doors for the lamb's blood. And that's why it's called Passover, because he passed over those houses. Okay. God allowed a plague to come. He allowed certain things to occur. There were reasons for all of this. All right. But he never does a thing without warning his children. He told his children to put the blood of the lamb over their doors so that their families and homes would be passed by or passed over during the plague. That's how you get the term Passover. Hey, people are here. I'm sorry if you can't comment. I did turn them on. So I think I've laid out a good case here for it being very possible that Uriel, we could say, spiritually speaking, is controlling the wildfires right now. He holds the key to the pit during the end times, and he led Abraham to the west, okay? And again, he's known as a few different identifiers and things of that nature. Now, we're going to go to, I'm going to try and find that verse, if I can find it. Hold, please. There. I Googled this stuff. I punched this stuff in ahead of time, so it was easier, and you guys wouldn't have to see me make a mess with my typos, huh? All right. Now, it says he's not mentioned as being the angel who's in the end times, but it is definitely alluded to because of his quote-unquote powers and principalities, all right? Now, let's see. I did look at this, the Jewish virtual library. That's actually pretty awesome, but hold for a second. Uriel's story at the burial and time often described as fourth angel. I'm not sure what this is. This looks like it's a blog. Imported Italian inspiring. So, God is my light, angel number 4. He is the angel of repentance. He is also called the angel of salvation. I find that interesting that he is given that moniker. Hold, please. I keep getting that tickle. That's why, again, times are funky as well, because the voice is going to go on me, and there's a lot to touch on and what's happening right now, and to pull it all together and to show you time, our concept of time and chronological order might be a little different than the events that are unfolding. I also mentioned that ad nauseum that the book of Revelation, I don't feel, is in chronological order necessarily. Some of those things have taken place already. Not all of them have taken place. It is the apocalypse of John. It is his revelation of Jesus Christ. So in Revelation, you also see the story of Christ's life being told, but symbolically and condensed, because it's the revelation of Christ told by John, right? So there's a lot of things happening that not everybody recognizes or even talks about. Some declare him to be the angel of Mars. That's weird. Okay. He's one of the angels who will rule at the end of the world. I don't know if rule is the right word for that. Excuse me. All right. What is said about his discs of light? See, the Jewish one will tell you about the book of Enoch. So I like to go there, and I mean, they speak the language, so I want to know what's going on with their, and see, they openly talk about things like Nephilim, Marduk. I mean, they are really into the cultish aspect of this, and all that is the hidden aspect of the hierarchy of God. However, I do believe, again, they have not truly spiritually evolved the way they're supposed to. I don't believe that the true Jewish people are the ones that they show on TV. I don't think that's true. I believe Native American Indians are part of the lost tribes. And I don't know that let me put it this way. Jewish people who recognize Christ, I don't know if they even know that they're Jewish because of things like orphan trains and whatnot. And let me also add that the Mormons have like information about orphan trains right on their website. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I'm suspicious because some of this stuff that's coming to public awareness, again, I've talked about for a long time, and I'm a nobody. To see it all come into the public is not only surreal and creepy, but it's also, I have to wonder at the motivation. And I'm thinking it's damage control. Right now, that's my opinion, is that they knew people were finding out about the adrenaline chroma. Follow me here, because I'm not using that word because my channel is so small. But people are openly talking about it now. And they're openly revealing that. And I believe they're going to put up false patsies, much like people say Oswald was with the JFK thing. I find it amazing nobody ever blames the person in the car. I find that truly amazing. He was embarrassing his wife all over the place, allegedly, with Marilyn. That's all I'm going to say there. Hell hath no fury, babe, like a woman scorned. I would never do that. That's not my way. But I know that other women do. So I'll leave that there for you to dissect yourselves. And I think she was a great woman, classy, looked beautiful. But again, these people that they show us, they're not showing us their true, persons. They're not showing us their true personas. And we just simply don't know. But we can start to make some educated guesses, and we definitely know that we're not told the true story about things. But I believe they are doing damage control right now, and that's why these things are coming into public awareness. And I'll do a short on that sometime soon here, just so more people can maybe hear that theory and be open to it. I think that's what's happening. I think they're going to put up a bunch of false persecutions. I think, follow me here, they're using reverse psychology. They're going to persecute people who are God's people, but they're also going to persecute people that are celebrities just to say, because they know Christians feel that way. This is all about trolling people who follow Christ at this point. Whether you're New Age, whether you're converted from the Muslim branch of things, whether you're a Jewish person who recognizes Christ, a Native American, Indian, I don't care what culture you come from. If you're following the way, if you're on that path, as far as food goes, and as far as bodily behavior goes, and living and all that, you're a target, right? And the goal is to mislead you, is to mislead as many of God's souls. The rest, they don't have to worry about, right? They already don't believe in God. They already don't believe in Satan. They're already atheists or whatever they are. They're already, sinners who love to be sinners, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind, is false patsies, like Oswald. So this is what the Jewish people have to, or Jewish virtual library has to say. One of the four angels of the presence first mentioned in 1 Enoch 9:1, together with Michael, and that's how I state it because of the AEL at the end, Gabriel, Raphael, he addressed a prayer to God requesting him to bring to an end the rule of violence and bloodshed, which the Nephilim had brought to the earth. Wow. In his reply, God charged Uriel with announcing to Noah the end of all flesh, which would be brought about by the flood. Okay, so Uriel was the angel that went and warned Noah about the flood. Along with the other angels of the presence, because they don't use God's name, Uriel served as a guide to Enoch in the upper heavens. I remember reading that, and that is just so surreal, that whole description of heaven. And when you think of Emerald City and the Wizard of Oz, again, there's a lot of people and enough people out there talking about Disney being evil and all these stories being evil. But if you've seen those stories, then you've heard the gospel, pretty much. The biblical story, the God story of the gospel, is in every story. It's there. Like you can't get rid of it. And now that I can see, now that it's just there. And again, there's enough people talking about how wicked things are. There are other channels that do that, and they make a lot of money doing that because, unfortunately, we like to watch a train wreck. We like to see bad news, and it's kind of like an addiction at this point. Certain behaviors are just addictions, and I think once we recognize that we're doing them, that we can stop and have better behaviors that are actually more fulfilling and more gratifying to us. I'm going to take a little drop of some mushroom tincture here so I feel better this evening. Okay. So we know that he's doing a lot here, right? And his name means the light of God. And he was allegedly one of the very first angels, okay? His particular function was to govern the army of angels and the netherworld, Sheol. Another name for Sheol, I believe, is purgatory. Because you have Sheol, Tartaria, heaven. You also have Eden, right? I believe you can be in heaven now if you have that highest frequency state of mind, and if you can reside there. That's the problem for us in this society, is staying there. And I think it's almost impossible if you're going to live in the world. You almost have to go away and be alone and not have any influences around you so that you can discover who you are, and that you can be disciplined enough to allow your true spirit to be carved out. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's not, corny. I hope. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. If you have any comments or questions, please write them down and comment when I post the video, because this is leading to a lot of stuff, and it's going to lead to a deeper live stream that I might do back to back. I might do it in the morning or tomorrow at some point, since I don't have to work. So it would appear the same function is mentioned in 1 Enoch 75:3, Uriel, whom the Lord of glory hath set forever over all the luminaries of the heaven. So luminaries are the lights of the heaven, the stars. Stars also correlate to angels in their way. So, again, there's a lot of layers here. There's a lot of parallels. We see patterns repeated, which is true science, which is, to me, the fingerprint of a creator. It is a creationary proof. In the heaven and in the world, that they should rule of the face of the heaven and be seen in the earth and be leaders for the day and the night. A special function is assigned to Uriel and for Ezra. That's 2 Esdras in the Catholic Bible, where he replies to Ezra's questions on the state of the world and the divine plan for the world and the people of Israel. By means of visions, he reveals to Ezra the course and duration of the present age and the conditions of life and the place of the people of Israel in the new world to come. According to the Midrash Rabbah, Numbers 2:10, Uriel is one of the 4 angels whom God placed around his throne. In the Kabbalah, including the Zohar, these angels of the presence are identified with the 4 holy beasts, which Ezekiel saw in the Merkabah, and the figure of Uriel with that of the eagle, and sometimes with that of the lion. interesting because it says that the woman shall flee to the wilderness and she shall be there for the same amount of time as the two witnesses. Again, that's a proof that I use to make state a claim, and I believe good evidence that at least one of the two witnesses is a female. And I've received a lot of guff for that. I know people disagree. I'm fine to talk about it, but please let's not argue, right? Again, even if you're not religious and you don't have faith, these stories are repeated in stories, even with Enlil, Marduk, and Enki. You hear these things repeated in the Sumerian culture, in the Egyptian culture. You see these beings represented by, different animals at times, all over history, all over culture, all over the earth realm. There's a reason for that, right? And I do believe, like after all the research I've been doing recently, again, I think there's good evidence to show that at one time we all had one religion, one faith. And for some reason, that was all tossed about. And again, I believe this is all to man's good. And I know that it's hard for us in our present state to see that. But I don't believe also either in totally throwing away the physical and saying it's all evil, because that's not true either. Your soul has something to do with your body as well. Again, people disagree with me on this all day long. But because of the amount of beings who have attempted to get me to consent to death, for some reason, I'm seeing this a lot. Now, we're going to jump right now because we're just lightly touching on Uriel. I showed you he has the disc of fire. I'll include a couple links. We will talk more about our angel helpers because I do believe there are helpers. It's just hard to see, right? We've got to start seeing that silver lining. We've got to start seeing the good. We have to understand that there are scales of justice at play, and those who thirst for justice are blessed, meaning we shall get that justice. But we are not to say when or how that will occur, right? We are still to do no harm. We are still to do all things from love, because if you're operating from love, you're not going to go out of order. You're not going to do what is wrong. You're not going to transgress if you love those around you, if you love your God and you love yourself. It's very hard to go wrong from that perspective. And remember, true love is not what the world says it is. True love is when you are willing to put the well-being and the interest of another. I don't care if it's dog, cat, bird, human, baby, child, man, woman. When you are willing to put that other being ahead of yourself, that right there is love. Without expecting anything in return, okay? Without expecting reciprocation. All right, so we're going to jump right now. And hold please while things get a little messy. All right, why am I talking about this? The Malaysian flight. Why did I go into this again? All right, because I'm gonna talk about this timing with this. Where did it go? Very few people talked about this. This wasn't super big. If you look at these links, they all go back to the same place. The same, one or two leaks, so to speak, okay? So not a lot of people were talking about this. I heard it years ago on Shane Dawson. No, he's not somebody I watch anymore. He wasn't even somebody I watched back then. He did some conspiracy videos, and I saw that he was getting attention on his channel. I knew he was going to get big, and because of that, I wanted to monitor his channel and see what he was pushing, okay? When you see somebody getting big, there's a reason for it, and you know that they're on the take. What does on the take mean? I use a lot of gambling references. I promise you I'm not a gambler, but apparently my dad must have been, because that's where I got all this verbiage. So, these people who get bigger, they are on the take and they have an agenda. But again, certain things are leaked for a reason, and it is for passive consent. It's to say, Oh, but we showed them. We showed them what was going on in May of 2018. We showed them with this news blurb and that news blurb, all the pieces, right? They scatter the pieces of everything. I am all for individuality. I believe that the hive mind wants everybody to be the same. I believe that's how the AC will be. Uniforms, things like that. Anything that makes people uniform and kind of wipes out any artistic creativity. I don't think that is of God. That's my personal opinion. Those who say miracles aren't occurring today, that healers are frauds, which is true about the ones you see on television. There's truth on television, but it's not the truth they say they're giving to you, okay? Again, everything they show us is for either passive consent or to avoid stronger, harsher punishment on their own judgment days. And because they're bored, if you know that you already know that you're doomed for eternity, or that your judgment day has been set and you know that it's not going to be good. I mean, you're going to amuse yourself, especially if you're already a trickster or a deceiver. And if you know you're doomed, you're going to go big or go home, right? I mean, well, who cares then if you do something else? I'm trying to speak from that perspective. Do I believe the fallen ones are eternally doomed? Again, I have compassion for that. I know people, I have people, there are those I love wrapped up in those types of, there are people I love wrapped up in this. So my perspective is different than a lot of people's perspectives. And I understand that. And I'm okay with it. I still do what I do, leaving out as much personal information as possible. I don't give names, things like that. But I will tell you that I've had firsthand experience with people who have said they are fallen ones. Do I believe they really were? I don't know. I know they wanted me to believe that. But at the same time, I know that I was told and revealed certain things while I was alone. And I think that's key. I think there were no witnesses to establish or deny that fact because, well, I just believe there was a reason for that. Much like, I'm not Mary. I'm not saying that, but the angel went to her and delivered news to her when she was alone. She did not have anyone to verify that for her. Again, I believe that is with just cause. There's a reason for that. And a lot of times it's to keep individuals safe. I believe there were no witnesses to what occurred to her because nobody could be trusted with information like that. No human being. And Mary had to be kept safe. So, this gets complicated. So what does this have to do with what I was just talking about? Well, we were told something in this voicemail that got talked about several years ago. And it's crazy, right? Because the plane disappeared years before this happened. So let's get into it. What's going on here? Now, this first link that I clicked on, that's what a lot of these lead back to, is this information here. Again, it's not talked about a lot. So on March 13th, 2018, remember, 2018 was a big year. 2017, I started having the dreams. 2017, a lot of you all started recognizing you were being targeted. 2018, targeted individuals became a thing. The death of Kanika Jenkins, which was a total ritual that played out all over YouTube, and I believe it had a curse attached to it as well, because I had issues from that and from watching that information. 20 May, was it May? No, it was April. April of 2018, I was in Florida. The day I was down there, one of the nights there, and I didn't know this when I was down there. I didn't find this out till after, and I showed you guys this information. When I was down there, there was one of those spirals in the sky was pictured, and somebody got a picture of it, and it was all over the news headlines. I didn't know that happened while I was down there. I was at the point where I was just waking up. Certain things were happening in my life and were just about to pop off, and I had a very strange trip down there while I was in Florida. The water also turned red on the coast. There was a lot of things going on down there while I was there, and it's just, again, this date for a lot of us was big, okay? The eclipse I will touch on after this, because we kind of have to go backwards with this stuff, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so on March 13th, 2018, a Twitter user by the name of Ty, that's interesting too, uploaded and he did one interview, and he has, as far as I'm aware, has not been seen since, at least not in the public, because his grandmother asked him not to go on record anymore because she was worried about his safety. I saw an interview, and that's what she said. A Twitter user by the name of Ty uploaded a screen recording of a voicemail he received. The voicemail features an automated voice reciting a code in the NATO phonetic alphabet, which is a clue too. This voicemail was given in code in the NATO phonetic alphabet. It was translated to read, S, danger, SOS. It is dire for you to evacuate. Be caution. That's supposed to be an S. They are not human. And then it gives you numbers. 04293396. And remembers, 9s can be 6s as well. 4230. Okay, so what does all that mean? His tweet quickly gained massive amounts of attention, which eventually caused him to deactivate his account. Other Twitter users began responding with various theories, and Ty also started receiving unusual direct messages in Morse code and other languages. This really also brings to mind when Hawaii had allegedly that false alert go out. I'm honestly wondering what's going on over there, because now you're seeing these Maui fires. It's like they're trying to keep people out of Hawaii and California with all this bad news. I'm really wondering if they're over there at this point. Like something definitely strange is happening. His tweet, and yes, I'm aware of the smart cities and the 15-minute cities they're saying are being built. Again, just because man says it's going to happen doesn't mean God is going to let it all come to fruition. Just my opinion. Let's see. Due to one of the Morse code messages, original speculation was that the voicemail served as a warning for an impending doomsday on April 18th, 2018. So what would that be? 04182018. Is that one of the numbers? 04. No, that's not there, but let's continue. Obviously, this theory didn't turn out to be correct, as the world didn't end. Another theory suggested there was a link between the voicemail and Stephen Hawking's death. The most compelling theory postulated the voicemail was a message from Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Now, that's what everyone is saying. They believe it is it's a message from the voice box, okay, from the Malaysian flight. So let's continue. Flight 370 disappeared while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8th, 2014. The Malaysian military radar lost contact with the plane when it was over the Andaman Sea. The passengers and crew were presumed dead, although only bits of debris have been found. There's little explanation about what went wrong on the flight and why it went missing. You guys know how I feel about planes, too. There's some big deception going on there. Because, again, you have the black and white uniforms, which is attributed to the Masons. I believe the Masons are, I believe some of them are the fallen ones, and their children, their offspring. However, I do believe some of them are angelic beings. Again, as I told you before, there's good and bad in every group because there's good and bad in us. And I believe we do have helpers. Okay. The voicemail was linked to Flight 370 because the coordinates in the message were allegedly close to where the flight vanished from radar. So when you click on all these blue ones, they're links, and it'll take you to this information, which we're going to do in a second, so just hang on. Twitter users speculated that the voicemail was actually a recording from the plane's black box, which would explain why the message contains SOS. The theory posits that the flight encountered an inhuman form, which could explain the mysterious disappearance. Okay, hold please. Let's go back up here. Anyone have any idea why the S is at the beginning of that? S, danger, SOS. Were they trying to type out SOS? Or is that a clue to who it's to with the S? If S is by itself in the NATO phonetic alphabet, what would that mean? S, danger, SOS. is danger. There's danger. Or is the S there as a clue on to how to decode the numbers? And yes, I think that way because that I think it's there for a reason. It's within the oh, what am I? The quotes, the quotations. It's inside of that. So there's a reason for that. Okay, so let's go down. Now, that'll take you to a link to the original story, okay? If you guys want that. I will include this in the description, the video description, and or the comments as well. Okay, so the theory posits that the flight encountered an inhuman form, which could explain the mysterious disappearance. Hold, please. I'm agreeing with that. I think this is a clue to us. I think all of these puzzle pieces have to be put together, and I believe this is a clue. Something is going on flights at this time, and from this time forward, something happening with flights and planes and travel. Has it always been that way? I don't know. I've never flown. But I can tell you, as someone who is seeing all this play out, because I haven't flown, that there's something really shady happening. There's too many contradictory stories that I'm hearing from people who have allegedly flown. I worked for a travel agent. Not forever, but I did deal with talking to the airports, and I think I was asleep at that time, but I think it was, again, some type of test to see if I would recognize what I was hearing, and I don't think I was paying enough attention. I was pretty much just parroting, what I was supposed to say, and I think I was given a clue, and I just don't know what it was. There's a lot I wish I remembered, and that'd be a good reason for hypnosis, but I'm dead set against that, and you guys know the reasons for that as well. Okay, so why would I link this to other things? Well, first of all, again, you got to go backwards, okay? There's a picture. I'm going to show this to you. Did you watch that show Lost? I didn't, but that had a supernatural story. Hey, Denise, I'm glad to see you. Thanks for commenting. I didn't know if they were working. I did watch some of it. Y'all will probably be disappointed by that. I almost feel like writers at the end of a series, it's like, I don't know if new people come in or if they get tired, or I'm not sure quite what happens, but it seems like the last season or two of a story on television loses its original magic, or I don't know. Once you actually find out what starts going on, it seems like I get disappointed, I guess. And there are too many like negative endings. I'm a little sick of seeing all the negativity. But back then, yes, I did watch it. There's a movie like that on Prime too now that's condensed, but it's very similar. And it has the same theories like Running Man and Total Recall a little bit. That goes along with that. It's just in a different it plays out differently, right? Is I guess the word I'm looking for. But yes, that had a supernatural aspect too, and we're gonna touch on that. I've thought for a while now that this could be purgatory or Boros. However, I'm trying to still figure out what purgatory is, what people. I guess it depends, right? What is the point for purgatory? To continue your refinement, because you need to be perfected. So it's possible you don't have anyone there influencing you to do negative. But if you don't know you're in purgatory, how would that play out? How would you get well, spiritually speaking? How would you finish? I mean, I look at purgatory and heaven and Eden and Valhalla, all these different words we have. I look at it kind of as like steps. I feel like, especially if we're eternal beings, we're not just going to go from A to Z and that be that, right? There's a process involved. There's change involved. And the only thing permanent is love in us. Everything else, every emotion we feel is temporary. Love is not an emotion, right? Love is an action. Love takes action. And so whether you're speaking a word to somebody, whether you're hugging them, whether you are handing them a card, whether you're whispering something in their ear, if it's of love, those are all actions. Love is not complacent. Love does not sit on the sidelines. Love does not rest. And God is love, right? And so, again, if you look at these things and the way they're meant to be perceived, it can all be quite beautiful. That's my opinion for right now. Where are we? I wish I had a map that said you are here, because I'm not sure anymore. And that makes it kind of exciting. I won't lie. It's kind of like an adventure. But I know that things get rerun on the news media like we see in television shows. I think that some of us were told certain things were false that aren't false, and certain things are true that aren't true. And I'm of the opinion that everything we see on television is a lie according to the framework. What do I mean by that? I mean that they will tell you you're watching a sitcom about a group of older retired postmenopausal women who are living together, and they're all actresses meant to make you laugh. And this is going to sound really weird, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Depending upon where we are, I think it's very possible that certain quote unquote shows are actually people's tests that we're seeing play out. I can't get into that right now. It's very weird. That's going to be one for like people who really want to talk about high strangeness. So yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into all of this. Now, I want to show you the screenshot of this I found in Reddit. This was somebody's theories. Now, it says, here are the numbers. Now, 208525. Now, see, this is different. And this is just one of the messages. Because remember, it said that he got several messages in Morse code, right? Now, that's black box. Let's look at that. If it's still a live link, again, a lot of the stuff is being scrubbed. Okay, this is from March 21st, 2018. See, I had no idea any of this was happening back then. I was just waking up, and this is not where, like, my life was at that point. I want to see if they have the code here as well. Okay, there's another one. So here's the original tweet, okay? S danger SOS. It is dire for you to evacuate. Okay, so first of all, who are they talking to? They say they think this message is from the Malaysian flight. So who is the S that they're talking to? Who are they? And because if you evacuate, where do they want you to evacuate from? A country, a state, another plane, the earth itself? Let's continue. So there they're giving you the numbers, which are the same as the other link. These numbers are different. So again, we'll continue because there was a few sets of numbers given to him throughout this all occurring. Stop it. And then gives coordinate. I'm throwing my phone away. Okay, so his name was Ty at Straight Away. This was the kid who posted this stuff, and he deleted his accounts. Will it let you click on it? No. And there's the original post. He says, I really need y'all to listen to this voicemail I just got. I'm deactivating my phone service. Now, again, they allow these things to be seen for a reason, but I do believe this one, I believe certain information we have to pay attention to. Is it gonna... Negative 118. It was a minute and 18 seconds long, it looks like. March 13th, 2018 at 12:26. Nothing weird there, no 3 a.m. thing. So that's good, at least. Now, this is what it says. Pay close attention to that. There's Wow, why is that all? What's wrong with that writing? See, that's that chicken scratch. That's when they don't want you to know it's there. Okay, this is what it says. Pay close attention to that. There's a S right before danger, meaning that S, the recording, is on a continuous loop. That's what I thought too, not a message set to play once it goes to voicemail. I thought it was kind of a loop too. Other uses set to work on the number sequence. They appeared to be a set of coordinates which, when plugged into Google Maps, led to one location in Africa and another near Malaysia. The latter, many users noted, was very close to where the Malaysian Air flight vanished from radar. Okay. Are you saying that Malaysia Flight 370 encountered something non-human? It's a police code. It says, danger, SOS. It is dire for you to evacuate. Be cautious. They are not human. SOS, danger, SOS. So who do they want to evacuate? 5 groupings of numbers. You have 28, 5, 25, 1, 18, 5. Is that 2011? 9, 14, 7, 1, 5, 22, 5, 18, 4, 1, 8, 1, 8. The Indonesian message, when run through Google Translate, turned out to be a warning, and the post you just shared about the recording in your phone. See, he started getting these. After he posted this, he started getting warnings, and he was posting them, and then he just went silent. So here he is giving all this information, but they're not, and I think I mentioned it in my last thing. When all this stuff kicked off for me and I found stuff in the personal computer, I read an email and it was all like the above. It was all this chicken scratch, right? It was in code. And when I decoded it, because yes, I decoded it. And again, this one's easy because it's literally just taking up space. They just don't, whoever wrote it didn't want to come right out and say whatever that was they were saying. But some, when you copy and paste into Google Translator, it will decode it. And it literally told me to stop reading emails. They were going to disappear or something like that, and that I would die that night, which obviously I don't think happened, which again is up for debate because I've died a few times. Some of us have that in common as well. This is also why, again, I wonder where we're at, because a lot of us had these NDEs and OBEs at the same time. No. So we see him get warnings, okay? And the post you just shared about the recording in your phone. And then he gets Morse code, right? This is most of the Morse code translation. Message to receive is well related to Stephen Hawking's death. You are not ready to face them. Stephen Hawking did say something bad was going to happen to the world in 2018. So they're saying the Morse code one above here says this: message received is well related to Stephen Hawking's death. Several users decided the numerical sequences in the Morse code and got this: they are taking over. And some cryptic lines about the late scientist, which read, the message received is well related, you're not ready to face them. Here's the one I have. The numerical sequences allude to April 18th as some kind of day of reckoning, rapture, or the day when they were taking over. Hold, please. What does all this have to do with the end times, Uriel, blah, blah, blah? Get to your point, Jen. It is very possible, and again, this is theory. I'm not saying this is fact. I'm not saying it definitely happened. I'm saying when I put together events that happened to me personally, events that were happening at this time, that were, being made public by people's cell phones, pretty much. They were taking pictures and videos of these spirals in the sky over Geneva by CERN in Switzerland. One of those was in the sky when I was in Florida, and I didn't know it. I had a strange experience on the beach during the day. And I'll tell you briefly, if you've ever played a video game and you go to the non-playable area, I always mess around in video games. I like open sandbox games when I do play. And if you mess around on the edge of, it'll tell you can't go any further. It's a non-playable area. And if you keep going, basically nothing happens because nothing has been designed there. It's the end of like the game map, the map of the game. You can't go any further. And then you start to see like grid lines, and it gets, if it was really happening, it would be like what people talk about, the simulation in the Matrix. I had some type of experience like that on the beach with light and stuff that happened. And again, I did not even recall it until after the event occurred. And I think our minds do that. I think our brains protect us from certain information until we are ready to look at it and examine it for the truth. If this is true, if these messages are true, and we put this information together, something happened on the Malaysian flight. What was it? I'm not going to speculate on that right now. But if it was a warning, and if they're right about the last one, this person is saying these are rapture dates, okay? The last one is 4/1/81/18. If you look it up, and says April 18th, 2018 is the next rapture, okay? This person says the next rapture. When I first saw this, that is when I had that light bulb moment, and I said, and I knew the truth in me, and I said, oh my God, everybody's been right. There's more than one rapture. There's more than one. Pre, mid, and post, I would assume. Although there might be a pre, a mid, and an almost over or something. I don't know. But I definitely think it's more than one. Is it real? Most people who have been taught about this doctrine will take you to a verse in, I believe it's Thessalonians. I'm not going to do that because I don't think that's the proof of it. I think the proof is in Revelation. It says that Christ will send down. He's not going to come down for the saints, go back up, and then come back down with the saints. That doesn't make any sense. People that go with that chronology kind of confuse me because that doesn't make no sense. And God makes sense. If I can make sense of something, I know the creator maker can definitely make sense of it. So God makes sense. It says in Revelation, he will send forth his angels to the four corners of the earth to gather the elect. It says it right in there that that's what's going to happen. Christ doesn't come to gather them. The angels come and gather them. Okay? So the rapture happens before Christ himself comes to earth for the second coming. Maybe so they're out of the way. I'm not sure exactly why. I have a belief firmly, if this did occur, if this is true, I believe that the first spiritual secret rapture, and yes, I believe it's a spiritual event, and I'll get into that in a minute. I believe that children would have been taken first. All the children under the age of accountability, which seems to be somewhere around 7 or 8, the age of reason. When you know like what you're doing is, wrong. When your conscience, starts telling you not to do things. That's what I believe the first rapture would be, because God is merciful. God is a God of mercy and love, and God would take all of the children first, all of those who maybe were debilitated and disabled physically because something happened to them because of man. I don't believe God is to blame for illness or those things. I don't think that's how it works. Just like angels have their own domain and their own powers and principalities, I think God and the devil have their own. And I think that's with a reason. God is good. And I don't think God created death. I don't think it works that way. I don't think death is necessarily natural either. I think we should be at a point where most of us should be able to see and understand that Christ meant for us to follow his ways, not just him. We are to do what he did. And most people just don't want to hear that. And they don't want to do it. They don't want to do the work. They want a pill to take, or they want, something to make it better. And I'm not saying I'm any different. I've been working on a lot of stuff the last few years, and it's not easy. And I don't always succeed. But I'm here to give you encouragement and hope that we do have help on our side. If this is true, if raptures have occurred, I believe that, number one, they're secret. I do not think God would allow the rapture to be seen. Why? Because you can't know it's the Antichrist. All the people who don't have faith, all of the people who don't recognize Christ as the Messiah, all the people who are part of the synagogue of Satan but say they are true Jews, all of those people. And the people who are going to be tribulation saints, they cannot know that these things are occurring. Why? Because if you saw a rapture happen, you'll automatically be like, oh my God, I'm sorry for everything I've done. But you're not going to have that inner work take place that needs to happen for true change and refinement, and repentance and penance. You're not going to actually change because you want to or you should. You're going to change because you're scared. And nobody goes to a good, proper leader or the right side of things through fear. No good leader operates through fear. And I don't think the Antichrist is at first going to operate that way. At first, he's going to try, and I told you this, at first you will be tempted with the things you love, trying to buy you off and get you on that side without even you realizing it. You just think you're being blessed by God. And it is to get you in a certain situation so that you have something to lose and it's harder for you to say no. I believe the Antichrist will be charming, and because nobody follows a tyrant in the beginning. Nobody. And this person wants to be followed. And so I don't believe the raptures would be public events. I don't think God operates that way. God is subtle. God is not a God of force. God wants us all to be a family and come to him, her, out of love, right? Like the prodigal sons and daughter, to go back because, not because his ways are better. Well, I mean, that's in the end, but because you love each other, because we love each other, we love God, and we love the kingdom, and we want to be, kumbaya, harmony, all that good stuff, right? So and I know you're going to argue with me. You can argue with me. Please, let's have a discussion. Let's have a civil, respectful conversation with each other. So if this did happen, if these are raptures occurring, I believe they are happening in secret. I believe God would give mercy to the children and the elderly and the infirm first. But first and foremost, all of the children under the age of accountability would be taken away so that they did not have to endure certain things that people who've made, certain decisions are going to have to endure. And I think that's all the reasons that I wanted to cover right now. What does this have to do with the eclipse? Well, if you look at the dates of the eclipses, let's look at that real quick. So the first eclipse was in 2017, right? And Malaysian flight. And that went missing in March 8th of 2014, okay? So he got that thing on March 13th, almost to the day it was, how many years later? Well, he posted 2018. So 4 years later, almost 4 years later exactly, he got that notification, right? So what would be in question now would be the past dates of the past raptures. Let's talk about it in the comment section. So this was in 2014. Then you have the eclipse 3 years later, 2017. Okay. And then after 2017, you have the next eclipse coming up. But in 2018, you had that voicemail was released. Okay. God's kingdom doesn't have to operate by the confinements of time. If God's kingdom is pushing messages through our realm, it is going to be at a different time than maybe we are aware of said event occurring. What do I mean by this? If raptures are group events, right? Well, then it's very possible that we have 3 different raptures occurring. It's also possible they're not group events and that all the people who have just disappeared throughout time since Christ was born, since Christ died, actually, since Christ died and walked the earth, since the gospel, since he died and up until now, that means people who've went missing, totally missing under mysterious circumstances, including missing 411. It's very possible that they're being snatched when nobody's paying attention and we're unaware. It's very possible that there's not just one rapture, but a rapture for each person, okay? Because they're all over the earth, right? Let's talk about it. It's just a theory. But we are getting close to something happening here. And it would seem, according to the Bible, you've got the woman in the wilderness and the two witnesses. Now, if they're not the same beings, right? If the woman is not one of the witnesses, she's just being grouped in there. Why? Because you have all that is 3.5 years, each one of those. You got 3.5 years for the woman, 3.5 years for each witness. So that's 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. That's more than 7. Okay, it's well over 7. Yes, in the past, in tribulation in the Bible, it usually lasts for 7 years. That's how much food they were told to stock and grain, and that was originally what tithing was, is everybody in the community gave food so that in case of an emergency, they would have it. And God told him in the dream, you stock up enough. He told Joseph in his dreams, you stock up enough for 7 years. That's why people think that the rapture, I mean, they give you all these numbers, but basically that's where they get the 7 years from, is the standard that's set in scripture. However, if there's 3 raptures, it's very possible that the pre-rapture was 3 years, or pre-tribulation rapture was 3 years before the tribulation ever started. And then you have the next one, 3.5, that would be at the beginning of the tribulation, and then another one 3.5 more years, that would be mid or end, depending. Now again, these are theories, but a lot of these numbers we're seeing be repeated, like the 3 years, 3.5 years. This is a repetition, so we should look at that and pay attention to that. So it's very possible we're seeing angelic activity across the world. They are just not being given credit for it because God, God is subtle in his movements and in his patterns, and God must be sought out, right? If you have everybody just knowing that angels are present and walking around all over the place, salvation will be very hard to come by naturally. You're going to have people that are going to rebel just because. Right? If you're born, much like people who are born in a bubble of science or religion, if you're born in a Christian bubble, you don't know anything different, right? If you're born in a scientific bubble, you don't know anything different. So you have nothing else to compare it to. So these are some of the obstacles that we are facing in our headspace. But these are all things that we should look at. So the next video that we talk about these things, we're going to pull out the maps. The maps of the eclipses, the maps of the Malaysian air flight, because if you ever look at plane maps for the flights, that right there should give you a big clue that there is some type of deception happening with flight. Now, some YouTubers have shown you, and they've told you there's a deception, and the deception is that the world is flat. I'm not going to disagree or agree with that. I'm just going to say that it goes much deeper than that. But anyways, that's pretty much it for touching base with each of these topics right now at this point. We are going to pull out the maps, and I also have maps showing, and this is where we get into a little woo-woo, showing certain places in the U.S. that events have taken place, and they are suspiciously within satanic pentagrams. So we're going to look at that too, because I think it's important to look at the map, look at the US, look at flight and travel, especially with this eclipse coming up, this next one. I think if we are in the time of a new age and change and flux, which I definitely believe we are, I think that next eclipse is going to be probably kind of epic, or at least the time right before it and right after it will be. Okay? I love you guys. I wish you would have chatted more, but it's all good. Hopefully, this made sense. Again, I'm kind of just trying to cover some of this so we can get into more in-depth discussion about all of these topics. So if something caught your fancy, let me know below, because I have a lot of books that we're going to get into as well. but I think I'm going to upload some readings onto the other channel. That way, people who want to see that stuff or listen can do that, and they can see where I'm getting some of these things and how I'm tying them together on the back end, if you don't want to actually watch us do it and watch it play out. But I want to hear about what your theories are. If you find any other information about any of these topics, by all means, share it, because the goal is to take all these different puzzle pieces, put them together, and come up with a coherent, logical, big picture that makes sense, because the Creator makes sense, and in His kingdom, there is no waste. Do I believe there are bad guys? I do, but I believe there are good guys too. And I know that God made us, so we're not all bad. A lot of these things that are floating around out there, that we are condemned, that we are wicked, that the flesh itself is wicked, a lot of it is because they don't want to stay in Tartarus. They want the earth. And much like we forfeited the first time to Satan, they've not changed their game plan. They want to get every human being that they can to forfeit their inheritance. And then it goes to them. Much like Satan kind of gotten in control here, it's because man forfeited it. Adam fell, and so it defaulted to Satan. And Satan, in a way, in a lot of ways, not in every way, but in some ways, became their god. And that's why we have these struggles now, is because we're dealing with two different gods, a capital G and a lowercase g, and we don't know the difference because of how we've been raised in this secular system. And I'm not going to say that that's okay. I'm just going to say that we have a merciful and loving Creator who understands all of these things and who is eternal, so has no end of patience with us. That doesn't mean to go out and do bad things. That just means that when you mess up, forgive yourself. Trust me, because that is one of the hardest things to do in this place. I love you guys so much. Please pray for me. I'm always praying for you. But I do need some prayers at this time. There's, stuff going on, and you will hear me talk about it. There are a few more high strangeness tales to talk about, and I have another upload to do regarding the LDS Church, and again, it's not purposeful. It's just current events that are occurring, and I just need to follow up on the stories that we started so many years ago, and seeing these things actually take place and bear fruit at this point. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming, and sometimes I need to escape the internet these days. Because yes, it really definitely feels like some of us are Truman, and we are being monitored in a lot of different ways, and mocked, and ridiculed, and more people than I'm comfortable with knowing my business know my business. And so just remember that somebody's always watching. So if you don't know what to do, remember that and try to do all things from love. I love you guys. Stay blessed. And please share your thoughts below. Bye, guys.